Welcome to a new video. In my previous videos, I taught you the ninth chapter of 12th education, which was the theories of learning. Now, this is the 10th chapter of your education book and the last chapter of unit 2. So, let's start. The name of this chapter is Motivation in Learning. So, what is motivation? Motivation is an important factor in the learning process. Motivation implies the arousal and maintenance of interest in learning, and interest is a basic factor in learning. So, in simple words, motivation is the arousal and maintenance of interest in a student, in a man, in a woman. And motivation, you can find motivation in every living organism. Like you can find motivation in dog. For motivation for what? Motivation for food. In human, motivation for money, and so on. So this is the definition of motivation: arousal and maintenance of interest is called motivation. Motivation plays a vital role in learning. Without motivation, nobody will give effort to learn. Motivation as activator and director of behavior. Motivation is both activator and director of behavior. It is an inner condition of the organism that initiates and directs the behavior towards the goal. So let's understand like this. You have a goal post in a field. The whole process of playing the activity, what is the motivation behind that? The motivation is the goal post. If you take away the goal post, what is the motivation of doing all the activity? Nothing. So like this, motivation gives you a idea that you should give effort for something, and it directs the way to do, to act, to get to that goal. So motivation is both activator and director of behavior here. Then motivation is a something happened. Yeah, now good. Motivation for the productivity factor in learning. Motivation is a productivity factor in learning. It means pressing the right button to get the desired response. Motivation is thus the source of vigor or efforts. Motivation refers to those factors which increase and decrease the vigor of an individual's activity. So, motivation gives you productivity. So, motivation is a productivity factor. Your whole effort, your whole intensity of effort is because there is a motivation there. Motivation to get something, motivation to get a post, motivation to get money, motivation to get respect, motivation to get good marks, motivation to defeat someone, motivation to be better than someone. Like this, motivation works. So, DOF says that motivation refers to existence of an organized phase sequence, its direction and content, its persistence in giving directions or stabilizing of content. So DOF gives this saying, this opinion about motivation. Lowell says a psychological or internal process initiated by some need which leads to the activity which will satisfy that need is motivation. So basically he said that motivation is a need, and the efforts, the activities which you do is to satisfy that need. So there are two types of motivation, internal and external. Internal motivation is also called intrinsic motivation. External motivation is also called extrinsic motivation. You can simply say internal motivation and external motivation. So what is intrinsic motivation? So before reading, I will say you in simple words that intrinsic motivation doesn't rely on any external force or external activity. It is created in within the human, within the student, within the child. No outside influence is effective for the creation of intrinsic motivation. It is a force inside the individual and works from within the individual. In other words, it doesn't depend upon stimulus from outside. A natural interest in something acts as intrinsic motivation because no outside force is required to get the individual engaged in activity of his interest. So, like I said, no outside force or stimulus is required for intrinsic motivation. If you have a natural interest towards something, that motivation will be created naturally. Intrinsic motivation is the most effective type of drive. Drive means to attract you towards something, to make you act to get something very what do you call, desperately. It is secured by making the subject matter significant or meaningful to the learner. If the subject matter is not interesting, not significant or meaningful for the learner, the intrinsic motivation will not be created, will not appear. The interest is within the activity, and learning carries its own reward. So the intrinsic motivation, if it is there, the learner will do activity and get the reward. Then the second type is extrinsic motivation. So this motivation is created by the influence of outside environment, outside incentives and outside attractions. There are occasions when a learning process in the absence of intrinsic motivation. If a learner doesn't have intrinsic motivation, then extrinsic motivation has a chance to be created. Extrinsic motivation is a so called because it is external to the learning activity itself. It is usually provided by the incentives outside the activity or the task. So, as I said, the extrinsic motivation is provided by the incentives, the attractions, the what do you call goals of which are outside your own activity and task. It is not artificial. It must be built upon the foundation of some existing natural response or tendency. It is not artificial. Extrinsic motivation is not artificial. It is built on the foundation of existing natural tendency which is in your subconscious mind, that you don't know what you like, but when you see those things, a motivation will be taking inside you. Like this extrinsic motivation is. If your tendency is tendency or your liking, which you don't know yet, is to swim in a swimming pool. You have no swimming pool near you and you have some other motivations there, but when you will see the swimming pool, your inner motivation will be in your conscious mind from your subconscious mind, and that will create extrinsic motivation. Like this, appreciation, praise, reward are also some examples of extrinsic motivation. So this is extrinsic motivation and intrinsic motivation, which is internal motivation, and external motivation is over. I think you all are well understood. In my next video, I will teach you the conditions for promoting motivation, and then motivation and learning. So I think you all are well understood what is motivation, what is internal or intrinsic motivation, and what is external or extrinsic motivation. So again, I am going to give examples. Intrinsic motivation doesn't need any outside incentive or outside attractions. It is natural and it is within the human being. And the extrinsic motivation is like appreciation, praise, reward, or something which is related to your inner tendency, natural tendency. So these are the example of extrinsic motivation. An extrinsic motivation is not artificial. This can be a question. So this is over. In my next video, I will teach you the rest things. Till then, if you liked the video, then like, share the video with your friends, and subscribe if you have not subscribed yet. Press the bell icon to get updates, because I am uploading videos regularly related to 12th hours subjects. Thank you for watching.